It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Capable University's head swimming coach, Coach Juliet Suess. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. Thanks so much for having me on.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college athletics as a coach?
Yeah, so my route to college athletics was a little bit circuitous, but I started off, swimming in college, all that. But I always thought I wanted to be an English teacher from the time that I was in high school. And then from there, once I was in college, I joined the school newspaper. And then I thought, well, maybe I want to be a journalist. So but I always loved swimming. Like you could literally not get me out of the pool when I was a kid. My parents I grew up near Chicago, and we had this above ground pool. Now, obviously, it does not get heated in Chicago in an above ground pool. It was kind of just like, something that, it wasn't like an expensive pool that we could heat or anything. And I would make my dad, like, as soon as it was like Memorial Day, I was like, you're getting in, like, we're putting the water, we're getting in the water, blah, blah, blah. And so I would like get out, my like lips would be purple. It was bad. So I could never get away from the water. But after college, I ended up winning a Fulbright scholarship to train to teach English and do some research in Germany. And Germany was like both the best year of my life and also one of the hardest years, just being super far away from family, having moved from Southern California back to a place that was like cold and rainy, kind of made me appreciate the what I had been missing out on. And so while I was like trying to decide what my next steps were after Germany, my college coach said, well, why don't you come back and coach with me? And I've been doing it ever since. I just like can't get away from college coaching. I took like a break from full-time coaching for a couple years while I was teaching English, and I just realized that the pool deck is where I'm meant to be. So I'm really feeling very lucky to be where I'm at.
Of course, what was that experience like getting to compete as a collegiate athlete for swimming?
It was awesome. I mean, I think swimming is kind of a hard sport in some way. Obviously, all sports are hard. I don't mean to like put down any other sport, but swimming definitely requires, you're looking at a bottom black line of a pool day in and day out. With running, you can run with a partner and you can talk, and a lot of sports that are outside of the water, obviously, you're talking and engaging with your teammates a lot more than you are when you're in the pool. So it was definitely difficult. There were some moments of feeling like lonely, but for me, as long as I was in the water, I was happy. There's a moment where you like, when you first dive in the water, there's a moment where the whole world goes silent and it's just you and water rushing around you. And it was that moment of swimming that kept me going, that it was just like when it was just me in the water, it was okay. So, had some tough times, but it was ultimately one of the best experiences I've ever had for sure.
What was that experience like getting to put on that swim cap for Ocean Net?
Occidental.
Hmm.
Um, You know, it was great. I had some, Occidental at the time that I was there. I love my time at Oxy and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I will say that there was definitely some moments of difficulty while I was there. Like I said, I was involved in journalism, and there were some tough stories that came out. One of our athletic trainers was removed from his position, or he retired from his position after some allegations of sexual harassment. There was some Title IX cases that came forward while I was at school that definitely made the experience of Occidental itself a little bit more difficult. But my coaches and my teammates, those were something I was always happy to represent. So, it had its good moments and bad moments to have that exact letter on my cap. But, I was always excited to show up for the people who really helped carry me through my college years, being my coaches and my teammates.
What was that experience like, obviously getting to coach at your alma mater of Occidental?
It was good. It was a year of transition. The head coach that I had swam under for my last 3 years of school, ended up leaving just before I came in. And so it was an interim head coach. So it was an interesting experience, getting to kind of recruit to a program that we weren't sure who the next head coach was going to be. I didn't know if I was going to be like staying there or having to move on based on the fact of the head coach. But it definitely was formative for me. It taught me a lot about the type of person that I wanted to be, the type of coach that I wanted to be, and the type of coach I didn't want to be, the type of athletes that I work well with, type of athletes that, maybe don't mesh very well with my personality. And it helped me grow a lot as a person. And I think it was definitely one of those years where you really take stock of who am I and, who have I been? And then also like, who do I want to be in the future? And I kind of realized that who I had been and who I was in that moment was not exactly who I wanted to be in the future. Definitely was really proud of myself and loved myself deeply at that moment, but also realized that I was going to love myself a lot more in the future by doing things that were a little bit truer to myself. So yeah, it was really formative.
What was that experience like, obviously getting to work as a lifeguard and a swimming instructor for your alma mater of Occidental?
There was nothing really that special about that time. Lifeguarding is not a very interesting profession. If you're doing it at a pool, especially one as small as Oxy's was at the time, was only 6 lanes. So it was pretty easy work. And, the only thing I really remember about that time was playing closing time when it was time for the pool to close. I don't know if you have heard that song before, but that was pretty much the only thing I really remember, was having that moment on Sundays where it was like closing time.
Of course, what was that transition like from going from becoming an assistant coach at your alma mater to leaving to become an assistant coach and a recruitment coordinator?
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a drama going from one college in the conference to a different college in the same conference. But it was definitely what I needed in my career. I think being at Oxy was amazing, but it definitely kept me in the same mindset that I had always been in. Right. So moving to that other school, moving to Claremont, having an amazing mentor in Charlie Griffiths, who's the head coach at the Claremont Mud Script swim and dive team, was really the push that I needed to figure myself out. I think there's no one experience in my life that made me grow more than working at CMS. I had never felt so accepted. I'm a weirdo. I am a bright personality. Coach Charlie would always say that I was bringing my rainbows and unicorns to the pool deck. And that was definitely kind of my personality. So I'm a lot to handle. And so I've never to be so welcomed in the community and to be embraced fully for who I am was something that was really special and really led me to discover so much about myself and the type of coach that I wanted to be and the type of program I wanted to lead someday.
How did it help to obviously get to work at your alma mater and also as an assistant coach to then make that jump to become a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was necessary to work as an assistant coach in collegiate athletics. If I had gone like straight from even just from being an assistant coach at Oxy to being a head coach, I don't think I would have been successful. I definitely have the passion for it and the drive for it, and I'm a hard worker, so I probably would have made it work. but I think that I wouldn't have been fully ready until I took on that recruiting coordinator position. Recruiting is a huge part of college athletics. So I think that without having that experience at CMS, I don't think I would have really been as prepared for this position as I now feel.
What was that feeling like when you became a head coach for the first time in your coaching career and coming to Chapman?
Whew. It felt like coming home, honestly. Like I said, so Chapman is also in the same conference as the other three schools that I've worked at. And so I've been in the SCIAC conference since 2010, and I have absolutely loved this conference. I cannot say enough great things about it. Everyone that I've worked with has been incredible. And all the people that I've competed against have been incredible. So that's been such a formative experience. But I had not come to Chapman until 2018. So for 8 years of being in the conference, for whatever reason, I never stepped foot on Chapman's campus, competed against them at various other schools and at conference, obviously. But when I walked onto the pool deck at Chapman, I looked around, and I don't know if you've seen pictures, Brandon, but we have a beautiful pool. And I looked around and I said, how is this team not nationally ranked? Like, how is this team not, taking over the world? And so I left that day and I looked at my head coach, Charlie, and I said, that's where I want to be a head coach. And so to be able to manifest that, in 2018 and be here 5 years later, I couldn't be more thrilled. Yeah.
Of course, what was that feeling like? Obviously, as you said, 5 years later, you become the head coach for Chapman.
Yeah. Like I said, it felt like coming home. It felt like I'm sure it's nothing like climbing Mount Everest, but in some ways, in my mind, in my world, that's kind of what it felt like. I had gone through a lot of really difficult experiences at the English teaching jobs that I had. And so to always have that backdrop of swimming, working with CMS, working with West Hollywood Masters team, doing all that stuff that I had done, it felt like coming to the summit of my Mount Everest, whatever that was, and just feeling like, oh my gosh, like everything that I'd worked for to this moment came true. So it was an incredible feeling. I know that I'm still, apparently there's still more to Mount Everest coming after. Obviously, being a head coach is its own work. But now I feel like I'm climbing a different mountain, and one that feels a lot more forgiving than the Everest I was climbing before.
Of course, once you got announced to become the next head coach, what was that feeling like getting to build the coaching staff and the players around you?
Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of say over the players my first year, this past year. And that being said, though, I wouldn't have traded this team for anyone. This team that I worked with was the grittiest, hardworking team. The coach who was there before me and I had very different philosophies. And so they were very used to the coach that was there before me. Obviously, right? You get used to that pattern. And so it was definitely some growing pains. I won't say that it was 100% easy, but they stuck with it. We had throughout the season at the beginning, we had some natural attrition that happens when a new coach comes in and people are just like, it's not it. But once season really started, nobody left. Everybody kept coming back. Everybody kept working. Everybody kept working towards the mutual goals that we had of swimming fast and building a culture and building a legacy for this team to continue. And I was really, really lucky that with the coaching staff, Eric Sandbig, who had worked with the previous coach, who had been the assistant under the previous coach, decided to come back and help me, understand the team better, transition into the future. And then I also had some amazing volunteers. Jason Willman, who was a swimmer on the team the year before, volunteered a lot of his time, and did a lot of really hard work for the team. And then we also had Yasmin, Coach Yazzie, as the swimmers would say. She's an international level swimmer, has experience on a lot of different levels, and really brought a lot of depth to the coaching staff. they helped me through the year. So we wouldn't have won coaching staff of the year without them, that's for sure. So it was a pleasure. And last but not least, we had Kurt Wilson come in for the diving coach position. I don't know how much you know about the diving world, Brandon, but it's small. There's not a lot of divers out there in the world, much less, not that many diving coaches. And so to be able to find someone who came in and matched my energy and wanted to grow this program as much as I did, Kurt and I were definitely the perfect pair.
Of course, what does a typical swim meet look like for Chapel?
I'm not sure there is a typical swim meet. But it looks like a lot of hard swimming. Like I said, this team is really, really gritty. So we went into a lot of meets with, it looked like it was going to be really tight. So they worked hard, and there's lots of cheering for one another, support for one another, and getting our hands to the wall first, or diving as perfectly as we could. And that was really exciting to see them their hard work pay off time and time again.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like obviously getting to compete against not just only your alma mater, but also your former team that you coached at?
Yeah. I wasn't sure what that was going to be like this year. It was weird. In my first year transitioning from Oxy to CMS, like I said, I think some of the swimmers who were at Oxy didn't understand my decision. And that's okay. It was a decision that ultimately was right for me. So that first meet, there was a little bit of, kind of side eyes and things like that and confusion. But I think once they saw my growth as a person, they really did come around. I've now had a swimmer come up to me 3 years later, and they were like, I get it. I get why you did what you did. I get where you're at. So that was really great. And then this year, Coach Charlie has become a friend of mine. And the swimmers that I recruited to that team, the swimmers who are still there, the divers who are still there, they only wanted what was best for me ever. And so it was so awesome returning to CMS, because it was our meet was there against CMS at their pool. And it was a beautiful moment, honestly. I had so many of the athletes from CMS come up to me and give me hugs and congratulate me on my new position. So I didn't know what it was going to be like. I would have understood had they been, trepidatious about me being there, or if they had been excited. It's their feelings are their own to value and to own. But Coach Charlie has become one of my closest friends, and I think that he was really happy for me to get this position, as much as he also potentially was a little bit nervous, because he knows I'm a good recruiter and a good coach. So it's been really exciting to be able to work with this team and work against the teams in new ways. But I think it's only strengthened my friendship and my relationship to the conference as a whole.
What has it been like obviously getting to step onto that pool deck as a head coach and leading your team to victory?
It feels different. Obviously CMS wins a lot. And it was always being part of a winning team there. But in some ways it felt like I was a part of the victory, but the victory wasn't always like as much mine, if that makes sense. Whereas I feel like being a head coach, like you have so much control over all of the things, that each victory really feels like you're able to really own that and be like, yes, this was my victory and the team's victory, as opposed to just being a part of it, if that makes sense. So it was incredible to see this team who, had never beat some of the teams that we beat before. The men's team had never beat Kalu. The men's team had never beat Redlands, and we did both of those things. The women's team had never beat Pomona, and we did that. And then Pomona went on to get, top 10 at nationals this year. So it was exciting to be able to be in that position and to own it the way that we were able to.
What has that been like, obviously, as a head coach, to not just coach the women's team, which you obviously was the athlete of, but also to get to coach the men's swim team too?
I've always coached. I've always been a part of teams that had that were inviting to all genders, and then I also, was on teams that always practiced all genders together. So it really wasn't that surprising for me. I think that there are experiences that people of all genders have that people of other genders may never understand, and that's okay. I think that if you just lead with empathy, lead with vulnerability, and really listen to what your players and your team needs, then it doesn't matter necessarily what gender is swimming or diving. It just matters that you're there and that you've got their back no matter what. So to me, it wasn't really that different than anything that I had experienced before.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for your program?
Yeah. So, I have three primary pillars in my program. And the biggest one is authenticity. I want people to be able to show up as themselves and know that they're going to be loved and respected for it, no matter where they are, who they are, where they come from. I mean, as someone who identifies as gender queer, I really want to be able to be myself on the pool deck at all points in time. And I want, the team to love and respect me for that. But I also plan on giving them love and respect without asking for anything in return. And I think that is one of the things about sports that can be really beautiful, is bringing together so many different people and allowing them a space to be who they are. And the water accepts and loves everyone, right? The pool doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. If you work hard, you can get to the wall first, right? And so I feel like as a coach, I want to embody that mentality of being able to, like, whoever you are, that's that you have a home here. And so I think that that's something that we've really tried to implement this year, and bringing together the team and unify our team in new ways, while also still making sure that we're amping up the competitiveness. At the end of the day, I'm a very competitive person. I want to win. And so making sure that we're practicing balance, mental health, mental wellness, emotional wellness, taking care of our whole selves, getting enough sleep, talking about nutrition, talking about all that kind of stuff. And then also working hard in the pool and making sure that we're able to take home those victories.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to get into collegiate swimming?
Well, unfortunately, it probably looks a little bit different for, especially across each division 1, 2, and 3. But if you're interested in swimming in college, my top piece of advice is to just start reaching out to coaches, and seeing who responds back. Go look at the times of schools that you might be interested in and see where you fit in. In academics, when I was teaching English, we always talked about like reach schools and safety schools kind of thing. And you can do the same thing with your swimming times. So if you look at, say, okay, I'm a 25-second 50 freestyler. Okay. I'm just picking easy numbers because it works better for my brain. And so you go and you look at the schools. Okay, this school's best time is a 24-5. So that might be a little bit of a reach for me, but I'm going to reach out to that coach anyway. This school's best time is a 25-5. So that's a little bit of a safety for me. Potentially, I'd be a little bit better, and reach out to those kinds of teams that are like right around your time and see what coaches respond back. And if you've decided that a coach is, that a team is for you or a school is for you, and you haven't heard back from the coach, see if you can do a campus visit and try to drop in. I get a lot of emails every day, and so sometimes you might need to send a second email. I try to respond to every single person who emails me. So if you're not hearing back from me, at least, please send me another email because something happened. But not every coach might be that way. So I would definitely say just keep reaching out to coaches and keep swimming fast, and you'll get noticed. And there's a spot in swimming for everybody. There's a school out there for you. So just keep searching and you're going to find it, I promise.
As a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes when going out on the road recruiting them?
Well, the nice thing about swimming, it's obviously different for diving. The nice thing about swimming is that, I can look at your times and I know generally if you're going to fit into the conference or not. I can be like, okay, this person is in scoring contention. This person's not in scoring contention. So that's the first thing that we look at is times, obviously. But I also look at not only what your time is now, but what was your time last year? Are you on an upward trajectory? So maybe, you know, if I'm looking for someone who's a 24-second 50 freestyler and you're a 25-second 50 freestyler, okay, but you know, were you a 26-second freestyler last year, or like what's your trajectory? Because you know that can make a big difference too. And then the second thing for school, like in Division III especially, is academics. Are you looking for a highly academic institution where you know you really want to have that balance between academics and athletics?
Of course, what does an official visit look like for those prospective student athletes coming to Chapman?
So you know, we haven't actually hosted any official visits. The reason for that is in order to be an official visit, the team really has to provide food for you. And we have had recruiting days where we have not had to do that. We've provided the admissions at Chapman does free lunches for athletes who or not athletes, but for people who come onto campus. And so we have been able to utilize those resources in order to make sure that our visits don't count towards those 5 official visits at Chapman. We also don't do overnight visits due to liability reasons from the university. So it's, you know, a nice quick day visit where you get to attend a class with an athlete, you get to go to lunch with the team, you get to visit or you get to watch a swim practice, watch a team meeting and a yoga session. So it's a very thorough day without taking away one of your 5 official visits. So that's always exciting.
Of course, what does that look like, obviously, for those prospective student athletes seeing the swim pool that they'll be swimming in?
I mean, I think that that's one of the big selling points. You know, it matters. I think it matters what kind of environment you're in, no matter what sport you play, no matter where you are in the world, or you know, even if you're just thinking about like a classroom, like learning in certain types of classrooms feels more natural than in other types of classrooms. You know, if for I was an English major, if someone tried to sit me down at a science bench and teach me English, I would have been like, this is kind of weird, right? So I think that's the pool at Chapman is definitely one of the selling points. It's an incredible facility. It's beautiful. It's sunshiny. We're outdoors all the time, which is nice. So lots of good benefits on that front.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see your athletes get to put on that Chapman swim cap?
I love it. I hope that they're proud to put on that Chapman swim cap. It's something that when we're at practice, when we're at meets, they are only able to wear their Chapman swim cap so that they can see like we're one team always. You know, we want to have, obviously we love our individuality and our authentic selves. But at the end of the day, like we are coming together towards one common purpose. And I think that that's what the cap represents for me is that unity of where we want to be and where we want to take the program.
What's it like, obviously, getting to go to some different schools and getting to compete in swimming at their pools versus obviously competing in your home pool?
Yeah, it really depends on the pool. I think that some pools give you more of a sense of home team advantage or whatever. But swimming isn't quite as boisterous as, you know, football or soccer or lacrosse or something like that. So I think competing in our pool is so much fun. First, I don't have to worry about a travel team. So everyone gets to compete at our home meets, which I think is really exciting. And it definitely like gives you a sense of like excitement to know exactly what the pool, like what the walls look like and stuff like that. But I think going to other pools is an exciting opportunity to try your skills in a new environment and see how they are. So I think it's just a learning experience to go to these other schools. And you know, it's great that we have so many wonderful schools like right in the area. So I don't have to get car sick on an 8-hour bus ride or anything like that.
Of course, what are some of your future plans for your program moving forward?
Yeah, so my goals are pretty simple. I want to be in the top third of our conference every year. I think that that's probably, you know, within reach within the next year to 2 years. And then within the next 5 years, I'd like to be an NCAA top 25 ranked team.
What advice would you give those high school athletes looking to get into collegiate swimming?
Just keep going. It's not easy. Swimming's not an easy sport, like I said earlier. And the process of getting recruited is not made super easy. So like I said, just keep reaching out to coaches, just keep swimming fast, doing the best that you can in the pool. And there's a coach out there who's going to recognize the greatness that you have inside of you. And so just keep believing in that greatness and showing it off to all who will listen.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes that are entering their first year of collegiate swimming?
Know that it's going to be different. It's going to be different than anything you've experienced before, and that's okay. Take it some time to embrace the difference of what you're experiencing. I swam for a pretty competitive club while I was in high school, and still it was not the same as college. It just isn't. You're potentially far away from home. You're in a new environment. There's all these new things happening. And so both embrace the change and also just take some time to slow down and know that you're not alone in experiencing the weirdness that is the first year of college. It doesn't matter if you're a swimmer, a diver, a football player, a baseball player, or you don't do any athletics at all. The first year of college is weird. It's just a new experience. And so embrace that difference, but take some time to understand that whatever it is that you're feeling is okay. If you're having the time of your life, that's okay. If you're struggling in your first year, that's okay. Make sure that you're reaching out for help and love, no matter what it is that you're experiencing, because people out there are experiencing the same thing as you or have experienced it and can definitely help you through whatever it is that's happening.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes that are looking to get into professional swimming and represent a club team or even a national team?
Make sure that you pick a good coach. Make sure that you pick the coach and the club that is best for you. Do a lot of research. If you're looking to get into it like full time, your coach and the club are going to make a huge difference. I was reading a story the other day about an athlete who went to his collegiate coach, and I'm not going to name the school or the athlete or anything, but and said, my mental health is not doing well, and I don't know if I can swim at NC2As. And the coach got angry and was like, you have to swim at NCAAs. Like that's not an option, right? Maybe that's a club or an environment that would work for some people. That's not an environment that would work for me. Like my mental health, and I think the mental health of all of our athletes should be the number one priority at all times. So to me, it's like, make sure that you get to that point. Ask a coach, like if I'm struggling right before a big meet, what is your response to that? How do you go from there? How is that coach, how is that club going to either nurture your mental health or, put that responsibility on you to nurture it? I think that to me would be the biggest focus in today's climate too, is just asking those questions. Do a lot of research. Don't just settle on whatever club is going to take you or whatever. Know that you are worth everything, and your mental health and who you are is worth the world. And so don't settle for a coach who doesn't see that.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes that are looking to get into collegiate coaching after their collegiate career?
Go for it. Yeah. This sport, every element, young people need good role models in their life, need people who are willing to be empathetic and help them achieve their goals. And so if you want to get into coaching because you love the sport and you want to help people achieve things that they never thought humanly possible, I would say go for it. College coaching is definitely the most rewarding thing I've done in my life. That's not to say that there aren't hundreds of other rewarding things out there, but if that's the calling that you feel, run towards it. It's a beautiful community and environment, and we need to have coaches out there who really truly care. So I would say, I'm all in for it.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to coach at their alma mater, whether it's to be assistant coach or even head coach?
Know that it could destroy some of the relationships that you built while you were on the team. For me, I had at least 1 year where I wasn't on the team, and so there was some new faces, and maybe my closest friends had already graduated. But being on the team, you have a certain relationship with your teammates, obviously. But being a coach, you need to have a completely different relationship with some of the people on the team, and that might make people angry. And it might hurt your friendships, and it might not be what you want to do. So, either understand that going in and know how to accept it and become really good at setting your own boundaries and what you're comfortable with and what you're not, or give yourself enough time where the people that you've been on the team have maybe left the program so that you're able to kind of feel like there's a fresh start and people aren't having to switch in their minds from one thing to another. I found it really difficult to do that. But my assistant, Coach Jason, and I'm not going to speak for him, but he was able to set his boundaries in a way that he's very content with his position as an assistant here at Chapman. And so it can work and it can also not work. So, go into it with your eyes wide open.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own swimming and diving program?
Do a lot of reading, do a lot of self-reflection. You got to know who you are, because when you come in, the athletes are going to, anytime change happens, people freak out, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's like you change the water pressure in the shower and all of a sudden it's like a whole different feel of your day, so it can be something small and simple, but still change freaks people out. And so they're going to ask a lot of questions of you. And if you don't have the answers, it's going to be a lot harder, be willing to be flexible and do a lot of reading, a lot of self-reflection, and really know exactly what it is going into it. And I would definitely say that spend some time being an assistant before you jump into being a head coach. Get that experience under your belt of what it looks like to run a team, and get some of that experience first.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you out on social media along with the Chapman Swimming and Diving Program?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Coach J_swim dive. And I think I'd have to look it up. Give me a second. I think Chapman Swim and Dive is Chapman U Swim Dive. Yep, Chapman U Swim Dive is the Chapman page.
Thank you again, Coach Juliet Suess, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the head swimming and diving coach for Chapman University.
Thanks so much, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Juliet Suess, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.